Hello everyone, I am that 3D guy, and before starting this video I'd request you to please subscribe to this channel and press the bell notification icon so that you do not miss any future updates. So in the previous lesson we already saw that how to set up the camera and how to set up the canvas and how to set up the uh, maybe the basic surfaces. Then we also worked on the camera module. There's one point which I want to say that maybe I was wrong about the LiDAR sensor. Maybe it was a flashlight and a microphone combination which I didn't know about. I just checked on the net while preparing for this video. I was just making the mesh around, playing around, and I thought, okay, it is not possible for a sensor to have a mesh in front of it, right? So I found out that it was the microphone. The other part was the other part is the flash. So I think you'll come to know what I'll be talking about. I'll also ask you to check the previous videos out so that you do not maybe you are able to go with the flow. So it's better you check out the previous videos before checking out this one, because this one is more or less going to be a very quick video where we'll be just working on the quick details and stuff like that. We'll also have one more session after this in which we'll be going into more details, and it will be just maybe the last session where we'll be able to complete the whole iPhone, right? So today we'll be working on some minute details here and there, and how to figure out some of the most uh, like the common and the easy parts. We'll be focusing on the easy parts today. It won't be very difficult to follow through because it's all these things have been done before. We have already done the difficult parts like the crown and stuff like that. So this shouldn't be a difficult one. So let's begin with the video. So here you can see my canvas. I'll just go into the recent. I'll open the file. And here I have my file. And yeah, so the top part wasn't the LiDAR sensor, it was the microphone. The bottom part is the flashlight. So yeah, so I had already created a surface over here. I had created all these things beforehand, like in the previous video. Obviously we had created this together. Today we'll be making a mesh in the microphone over here. We might also cut this part out over here. As you can see in this, you can see there's a small cut over here, right? So there's a small cut over here which makes both the surfaces quite distinct. This looks like a glass panel, so this is a glass panel behind this one, so we need to keep that in mind as well. And this is another part, so we need to just cut it out and maybe soften it a little bit on both the sides. So that's what we are going to do today. We'll also try to see if this makes any sense, like making this part on top of the other glass part makes any sense. We'll also try to give some crown to the camera. So I think there's a bit of a crown to the camera, if I'm not wrong. It's not visible to the naked eye. Even if you keep it on a flat surface, it won't be that distinct, but there should be some of that where you get that effect, right? So I just feel that there should be a minimal amount of crown on the maybe the camera. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but we'll just do it. Maybe if it's aesthetically looking good, we'll just go with it, right? So here we have it. First we'll work on with the mesh, right? We'll work on with the mesh of the microphone. So most of the times when I saw, the mesh was quite squarish. I don't know if you can see, it looks like it's some kind of a square, or maybe even if it's a circle, I cannot just make it out. So I'll go with the square for now. Maybe depending on the design you get, maybe how you want it to be, we'll just take that out as well. So I'll just go where my, yeah, so here is my object. Yeah, just in case if you if your object is lost somewhere in the space, you can just hold Control or Alt and Shift, and there's a small box that opens over here. You need to hold Alt and Shift first, and then you just need to click on the small box over here. Yeah, so you click on the small box over here, it will take you to the object which has been in focus, right? So that's one thing that comes very handy. So we have something over here. Now we need to make a mesh inside it, right? We need to trim out all the meshes inside it. So how are we going to do that? I'll keep it as a square mesh for now. So I'll make a quick square with the set of curves, right? I'll make a quick square. I'll just maybe toggle the grid. Okay, the grid is quite big, so it's okay. We'll use this one. We'll just eyeball it for now. Or if you want, you can just maybe play with the, maybe make it something like this as well. You can just snap it on the grid, right? So all these options are always available. You can just make a square very quickly. and then group it, because we need a lot of them, right? We need a lot of them to, we'll just group it together and we'll scale it down. We'll scale it down and bring it very close to the circle where we are able to focus on, right? So we'll make it something like this. Now if you can see, there's this small box over here. I think I'll just maybe make it a bit thicker. So how are we going to make our changes in the looks over here of the because I want to show you, right? And it's going to be very difficult for an object like this. So I'll go into the object display. I'll go into the I think it's there over here, and maybe it's there over here somewhere. So yeah, so it's there on object display and draw style, right? We just go into the draw style box, and here you can see how you want it to be. So I wanted something like this. Maybe if you can see, it's, yeah, so we need something like this where this is noticeable. We also want to keep the curves a bit thicker, so we'll keep the line width as double. So I think it's a bit more clearer now. Yeah, so I think it's a bit more clearer now to see how the curve is going. We'll just keep this curve a bit more small over here, something like this. And now we need to make a mesh over here, right? So for a quick tool that I'll use is the array tool. So where will you find the array tool? It's there in palette and array, right? So array tool, what it does is it duplicates the object into increments, right? It duplicates your object into increments. So I'll just pick this one. You see there's a box that opens, right? Now we just need to, there's a spacing of 100, I think it's 100 mm. We can just make it to 0.15 for now. Maybe this one as well, 0.15. It's going to be on 2 axes, right? So let's see if it works. Array, and yeah. So yeah, I think it worked, but it worked in the wrong axis. We'll just try to flip the axis. Yeah, something like this. X and Z axis, right? So it works, but we need a bit more of these. We'll keep it over here and we'll start playing with the numbers, right? We'll start playing with the numbers, how much ever we want. And we'll just bring this up. Maybe we can keep it to 20 by 20. Let's see if this works. Yeah, it takes a lot of time because it has to process all these things as well, right? So it's bound to take this much time. Yeah. So depending on the speed of your PC, it will be that faster, right? We'll just move this a bit down. Now we have the history, right? So we can play around with the history as well. So we do not need to input all these things again and again. We can just play with the history, play with this, just see if it works. Yeah. So we have something like this. If you can see, we have all these meshes set up. I think we can make the draw style over here as it was. This one becomes quite thick, right? Yeah, something like this might work. Yeah. So we have something like this. Now we just need to trim out these parts, right? So what we'll do is we'll just project it. We'll project and trim. So first what I'll do is I'll untrim this. Okay, so here I think maybe because of some issues regarding the intersection, what happens is we have set up some of the construction options in the tab. So because of that, when it untrims, it does not detect that. So what we'll do is we'll again maybe project all those curves and then trim it back again, so that we have the curves on surfaces. And I know this because I have already tried this before making this video. So we need to keep that in mind as well. We project this here. Yeah. So we have something like this and we project it by view, right? And then we just trim this part, something like this. Now we'll project all these things inside, and it takes some time to project, but it's quite satisfactory. Like, it satisfies you quite a lot. So like the projection in this one is quite interesting. Yeah, I like how the cursor flips again and again, so that's pretty interesting. Now we'll just trim this. Now these are a lot of objects which need to be trimmed. I'll just place my marker over here, trimmed marker over here. You see how these many points have lit up, but we want the one which is inside, right? So we'll select this one which is inside. I don't know if you can see, maybe because of the clipping plane. Okay, so over here, somewhere over here. We'll place it over here and we'll trim. Let's see if it works. It's going to take some time, but it works. Yeah. So as you can see, we have some of the parts which have been like not trimmed properly. And I think the main reason because there's a small issue with this, and that has something to do with the tolerances, right? We need to specify the tolerances at which the curve is actually trimming, because these points are so small. These are literally micromillimeters, right? These are literally micromillimeters where it does not trim properly. You see how these parts are being left behind. The software is trying to force it to trim, but it's not trimming. So what we'll do is, and it's because of the small objects, we'll go into the construction options. We have the CATIA V5 option enabled. We'll go into the we'll go into the tolerances over here. We'll go on curves on surface / trim, and you'll see its default over here. Trim curve fit is 0.001. We'll make this one max gap between curves in 0.01, right? Because that's the tolerance we are currently working on, because it's very small, right? So I think now it should work. Yeah, now you see how every part of it has disappeared because of this one single change in tolerance. We were able to achieve something like this. So this is how we can achieve something like this, like a mesh. Obviously, if you want, you can give this part a thickness as well. You can give this part a thickness as well if you want to. Maybe what you can do is, you can just select this, Control H, like hide unselected, and then you can just maybe draft it, right? You can just draft all these things out. So if you want, you can just pick draft, select all these things. It's obviously going to take some time, but yeah. So we'll just keep it at 0, maybe 0.1 and place it. Again, my PC is not that powerful, but I think it should work for you if it work for you quickly, right? So it takes some time, but it will get the job done. And the main reason I'm showing these parts as well, because I just don't want to focus on the things which I'm able to achieve, right? These are some of the problems which most of the modelers have, but you always get to see the final product, right? You always get to see the final product, and that is like, okay, maybe how am I going to reach somewhere over here? So these are some of the struggles which most of the people face. Like you might have seen the struggle with for me in the previous video as well, right? You might have seen my struggle with the, again, there might be an issue with the tolerance over here. That is why it might not be taking, but it's such a small part, I don't think it will be visible in the renders, so I'll leave it for now. Anyways, this part is going to be at the back, right? This is just going to be at the back, so we just need to see the thickness. We just need to see the thickness of the mesh, maybe, and it's going to be perfectly fine. So I've just set the pivot over here so that I can just duplicate this part over there, and maybe I can just remove all these top edges and then just make one skin over there. It will work as well. So I do not need to worry about these edges as long as I'm getting my smaller edges done. So these are small ways you can just work around things. I'll just Control C, Control V, and move it along this one. So I have exactly something which looks something like this, right? And I'm pretty happy with my mesh. It looks pretty okay for now. If I want to make any changes, if I want to make even a small change, I have the history of the array. I can just toggle it a bit, and it's going to change the whole mesh. Now it's just going to work around, change the whole mesh. Even with the draft, depending on your computer, it's going to take some time, obviously, because that's a lot of history to keep in mind, like for so many objects, but it's going to get the job done, right? So I won't delete the history for this. I'll just select all these objects and then make a new layer over here. I'll set it as mesh, right? Mesh, or maybe microphone. Yeah, so we have something like this. Yeah, and we just assign it over here, because what happens is I wouldn't like to work with this on, because it makes my software a bit heavy. I just hide it. It becomes a bit more smoother to work on comparatively with this. For now it's like okay, but as soon as we toggle the model, there are too many complicated objects, too many ball corners and stuff like that, it becomes quite heavy. So for now it looks okay, but I would prefer switching it off, maybe working on some projects. I had a lot of problem working with these kind of meshes, right? One more thing you need to keep in mind is, as I'm not only working on Alias, right? I'm working on multiple softwares. So these kind of meshes can also be created as textures, right? This can be created as an opacity texture whenever you want to put it. So there's a texture named opacity texture, where black is like nothing and white is like showing the object. So you can just place a plane over there, put a grid with black and white contrast on it, like an opacity map, and it's gonna work the same in a similar way. Obviously it won't give you the depth and the feeling like how this part gives you, but it's pretty good for smaller objects like these, right? Like maybe the meshes of an iPhone, where it's like so small that it looks okay. If it's obviously, while manufacturing, they take a look at all these minute details as well. But if you want to work on something which is like okay, maybe just for rendering, or maybe just for a small part of an animation, these kind of objects don't make sense while animating, right? Because it's so many polygons you'll have to deal with. But on the other hand, if you have a texture for this, it's pretty good. So these things you need to keep in mind. Maybe if I'll show you the rendering part of it as well, I'll switch this off and I'll show you how to render it along with the opacity map as well. So that will be something which will be quite a new way to render it out as well. A lot of people do it in the industry, so it's not something new, but yeah, new for some of the people who are just starting out. I'll hide it over here as well. Yeah, so this works. Now the next part is, I'm pretty happy with how my camera unit has turned out to be. I'm pretty happy with this. One more thing, I just want to maybe make it a bit bulgy, not a lot. So what I'll do is, yeah, so this is the best thing about history. I hope it works. I'm just trying it for the first time in front of you, so let's see if it works. Yeah, so with this history on, I'm expecting that nothing should go wrong, right? I'll just make it a 3x3, and with the history, I hope everything works as I want it to work. So first I'll just save my file. This is one of the most important things you need to do, is saving the file. I should have told you that in the first lesson, but it's okay. Better late than never, right? So I'll just, you see how I have selected only these parts, right? I have selected only the middle four here, and that's the reason I say that okay, use only that much plane that is required. Don't go very big, don't go very small. Like obviously the smaller ones are not gonna fit, but the bigger ones are a bit difficult to control when it's like something which is very tiny object, right? Obviously when you are modeling modeling an automotive object and you need a windshield for that, so at that point of time you'll have to create big surfaces, play around with those. But for small surfaces like these, you don't require that kind of a stuff. So you'll just pick these, go into the other direction, just move it a bit over here, right? Something like this, which looks aesthetically appealing. And I think okay, so there has been a problem, if you can notice, is this surface has literally come out, right? This surface has literally come out. I'll just try to push it back in. So that it detects from where it needs to take the fillet. Now it detects and it works, right? So these are some of the ways where you can just play around with it. And if you see, if I turn on the zebra, you see how the reflection is changing now. It's not completely straight. It's kind of okay. It's kind of a bit like how curved I wanted it to be. which looks pretty okay for now, right? I think it's quite a bit big. I didn't want it to be this big, but maybe I can just dip it inside and just dip it inside a bit, right? Something like this maybe. Yeah, this should work. So you see how I am trying to play with this. You can use the CVs anytime you want. You can use the CVs anytime you want. You can also push these CVs back, right? You can also push these CVs back a bit. Play around with these as well. Since you have moved this one, maybe you can try to move this one as well. Something like this. Maybe, yeah. So this is just, I'm relying on the intuition. Yeah, so I think something like this should work. I was just playing around, checking how the surface is going to look, and now it looks a bit more like something is happening over there rather than just a piece of flat plane stuck over there, right? So what I'll do is I'll just delete this one and I'll take these ones again. I'll just do what I did in the previous lesson. I'll just pick this surface, pick these fillets, pick this surfaces, these fillets and this plane, right? I'll control H. I'll duplicate this, move it down, yes, move it down. I'll ungroup. I just want to see if it has ungrouped properly, so I'll just, yeah, it has ungrouped properly. I'll just select all these things and then group it again. Yeah. Center pivot. And I'll move this a bit up, just matching to the circle, eyeballing it. Yeah, this seems pretty good. Maybe a bit more. Somewhere over here works, I think. Yeah, something like this. So this is how I think it should have been in the first place, but I'm happy now. And this is the best part about history. I keep saying this about history in almost all my videos, but this is just like a reminder, right? Where history is so powerful that you can just admire it. So the next part is, again, like the next part is going to be cutting this part and making something out of that, right? So if we see in the image, we'll just zoom it in, and if you can see, it's just halfway through the fillet over here. If we see, I'll try to move this over here. I'll just try to compare it over here. Yeah, so something like this. If we see, it's just halfway, right? It's just halfway. I feel it's just halfway where it's just turning, or maybe somewhere a bit more, like on the 3/4 of this, like somewhere it starts from here and goes till here. So I think it's something like that. And yeah, I think we can start modeling. Maybe we can try to change that again if we want to. So we use again the power of history to like make some changes, and we know that there is going to be some changes, so we are already prepared for that, right? So one thing you need to keep in mind is that do not be scared of changes, because it's going to be there like multiple times. You'll have to change things like hundreds of times. So don't be like, okay, I'll have to change this, or maybe if you're not happy with the surfaces, try to rebuild it. And I think you'll get the best solutions only if you are able to rebuild it again and again. There have been funny instances as well where some of my friends, I think, yeah. So some of my friends, I think some of my friends told me about this, or maybe I read it online. It was regarding a person who forgot to save his file, right? And he was working on a file. He was quite satisfied with the quality of surfaces, and in the end the program just crashed. And it happens quite a lot with Alias, right? It happens quite a lot with Alias that your program crashes. And when he started, he was like completely depressed. He was like, okay, I won't be able to maybe work around it now. And it took him some time to reach that. So when he started building that again, right, he was like, at one point he'll have to resume that, right? So when he started building that again, he realized that the quality of surfaces now were much better than it was before, because he had taken a completely different approach. So that's the best thing. That's the best thing you need to keep in mind, that it's always better to like maybe give it one more try. So yeah, we have something like this. I think maybe we could have just intersected it, maybe with a draft or something like that. I just feel it. So we'll just draft this over here. Since these are just going to be planes like millimeters apart, right? It's just going to be millimeters apart. I'll just delete the controls, just the, maybe this one is going to be somewhere over here, and this one might, this one might barely go somewhere over here. Yeah, so we have something like these, right? We have something like these two surfaces. We just need to trim these now. We'll select this draft surface and we'll intersect it with this one. Now obviously, even if we select all these parts, it doesn't matter, because it's just going to select the part which it is overlapping on, right? So that's also one thing you can just go around. So here we have it. We have something like this, and we'll just trim the other part over here. We'll keep this, and we'll keep this as well, right? So we have something like this. Just Control J. We already see a small cut over here. I think there's a small cut which is visible over here. Yeah, there's a very small cut which is visible over here. I think we'll have to make it a bit closer, right? We'll have to keep it a bit more closer, something like this. And you see how I am just trying to manipulate it using this trim and the whole history thing. So yeah, something like this. Pick the surface over here, surfaces over here, pick these surfaces over here, Control H. Now I just want to select this surface and these surfaces and unhide it, maybe. Control H. Yeah. And then I think the intersect should work. I'm not sure. I'll just give it a try, and if it works, it works. Okay, it's working. So we'll just trim it out. Yeah, or maybe it's not. So yeah. This is the thing which I wanted to show you previously, that sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Even though you can see it's clearly meeting at this point, right? But it's at such an awkward angle that it's not able to maybe showcase it, right? Correct. So we'll just take all these and just project it and trim it. So sometimes we have no other option but to project these and just trim it out like these. Or maybe you'll have to play a bit with the dimensions, then you'll have to just move it around and stuff like that. But it's better to do something like this where you can just project it and just trim it out. Yeah, we have something like this. We'll go into the view again. Most of the times you can also select normal if it's very close, so it projects the curves normally onto the surface. Even if we do it normally, it's so close, it's just intersecting it. But we'll go for view, but because why not? And then just trim it out. So we have something like this. We'll just make a very small fillet over here, very small fillet, just around maybe 0.1 like we did yesterday. Yeah, something like this. A bit bigger might work, 0.25. As I said, start from the very low and go a bit bigger, right? Yeah, this should work. So something like this, and this part as well. We'll just take a look at this part. We'll select all these maybe as an object. Yep, we are selecting this as an object. We are selecting these as an object. We'll pick up the surface over here, Control H. We have this, we already had that, so it's going to be easy to trim this one. And just 0.25 again, maybe, if it works. Yeah, so I think it should work. 0.25, I'm not sure if it's going to work, but let's see. Yeah, so it worked, but it's making a bit awkward since the angle is so tight over here that we'll have to play with something which is a bit more shorter and it's less noticeable, right? So depending on the angle also, you need to keep the fillets in mind, that sometimes it's like it works, sometimes it doesn't. So you need to keep those things in mind as well. So I think this looks pretty okay for this one. Yeah, I'm quite happy with how this thing came out. The glass section and everything. These are the details which we need to actually check, right? I switch off the blueprint. I see how it's looking. Yeah, it looks quite similar. Also, if you might have noticed, there seems like this part is going a bit more down or something like this, maybe because of this big fillet over here or something like this. So yeah, it depends again, like maybe I follow the blueprint or maybe I follow the designer. If it looks like an iPhone, if I just show it to you from here, it's going to look like an iPhone, right? And I just move it around, it's gonna look like an iPhone. So that's the main thing. These things, obviously, if you go into the blueprint, if you see how you're gonna build it, you'll have to go again into like maybe behind and check it out, okay, how it's turning and stuff like that. Then you'll have to make the changes again from behind. So yeah, so this thing works. We have something like this. Yeah, and so we have the glass panel ready, we have the front panel ready, and we can just cut out this part, right? We can just cut out this part as well for the camera. We can just cut out the camera hole, maybe give it a bit more of this kind of a feel to it, right? Maybe make a cylinder, another cylinder over here, so that it looks like it's like a camera or something. Yeah, so it's nothing, we just need to select this one, maybe make it a bit smaller, Control C, Control V, and scale it down a bit. Maybe we can switch on the blueprints as well. We'll just see where it, yeah, somewhere over here. You are quite precise with this one. And We'll just bring it a bit out, just a bit out, like somewhere over here. Yeah. So obviously it's also how you perceive it, how you perceive your blueprints, how, so most of the people are going to like take it in a different way also. It's not only one person doing one kind of a thing, but it's like multiple people have their own kind of way of working, right? So maybe you see something in a surface which I don't. So I'll just use this as a marking thing. Again, I'll use this as a dummy object. Maybe place this one, so it's easier for me to place this one as well, right? Move this one like this, just snap it across, and I get rid of this and I'm done. So what are we left with? For now I think we have almost everything ready, right? Or maybe just one more part which I was thinking about. If I want to make it, we'll do it right now. We'll just work on the final details in the next session, making the iPhone logo over here. Oh yeah, we need to make the buttons as well, right? We need to make the buttons as well. I forgot about the buttons. We need to make the buttons as well. We need to make the depth for it. We can do that in the next session. I think I'll get some things prepared also. Before the video starts, I'll get things prepared also. Like I'll make these curves, right? Making curves is not difficult anymore. So I'll just make these curves beforehand, so we don't waste a lot of time in that. So I'll just use this one. We have almost everything over here. Just one thing that is missing is the projection of these, right? The projection of these is missing. We'll just project these out as well. Control H. And yeah, so maybe because this is like, we'll just pick these surfaces over here. Pick this surface, or maybe these surfaces, right? We'll just select these and we'll project this one so that we have something to work upon like this as well. Now I don't think once I extract surfaces from this, it should be a big problem, because it's a flat plane. So as I said yesterday, maybe it works sometimes to like maybe extract surfaces from trimmed surfaces. So sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how the surface is going to be, right? So yesterday when I worked, it worked like wonders for me. It might not work for you. So it depends on the software, right? Yeah. So we have something like this. We'll just trim it out over here. And I hope it works. It should work because it's not a very complicated object. Yeah, we have something like this. I'll just duplicate this one, maybe move it a little bit ahead over here somewhere. Yeah, I'll just and we have these two surfaces over here. Okay. So now we just need to project this on this, right? We just need to project this. So yeah, these things are really very frustrating. Like going around these parts, maybe also filleting around small parts and stuff like that. And I always like to be a bit more precise how I work, so it's just like this, right? All these troubles and yeah. So I have something like this and I just trim out. Yeah, finally it worked. I'm quite happy about it. And yeah, I'll just skin it across. Maybe it should work fine. Or not chain select. I'll just disable the number of series we have here. We'll just quickly skin it, and maybe we'll just increase to 5 and keep this to 2, or maybe 6. Okay, maybe 5 will work. Just keep it to 5 and we'll just keep skinning it. The only reason I don't like to keep chain select in this is I'm not sure if it's going to work. As chain select mostly works when it's like not a closed surface, right? Not a closed surface, not a closed edge maybe. Because it makes a lot of problems when you are working with closed edges. That's the worst part about it. I think in this one it should work though, because it's just a circle, so hopefully it works. Yeah, it worked. Again, the reason the video is so long is because we are keeping it like completely unfiltered, right? We are just showing it whatever is like the best. So something like this, maybe quickly fillet it. Before ending this video, I'll just quickly fillet all these things. Okay, so I think this fillet is not working for now. I don't know, for some reason it's not working. Maybe I'll have to manually select each and every surface and then maybe do it that way. So yeah, maybe if that's the only choice left, then I'll have to do it that way. But for now, it looks something maybe a bit more realistic in terms of how our object has come up. Yeah. So it looks quite clean now. It looks quite interesting now. I'm quite happy with the way the surfaces have turned out to be. The details, each and every detail, if you can see, I'll turn on the mesh as well for this one. So as you can see, it has turned out pretty well how I want it to be, and this is the kind of thing you can achieve as well. It's pretty simple. It's pretty simple to work around these kind of things. I've even been able to give the crown how I wanted it to look like, the whole camera unit and everything. It looks pretty good, right? So yeah. So that's it for today's video. It was very long video, but it's okay. Like maybe you'll be able to learn quite a lot of the things from this. Maybe new tool, right? Array tool and stuff like that. That's it for today's video. And if you have any doubts, again, you can just post it in the description box below. Post it in the comments box below. Or mail me at that3dguy23@gmail.com, and I'll be glad to cater your doubts, right? So see you